Chief Lane here, cameraman's out, and I'm late. This is already Saturday. This is supposed to have been out on a Wednesday. We last left off with me taking all those tests, and then after taking all those tests, we sat down, we signed we went over the contract, made a contract, designed a contract, whatever you want to call it, that I would join the military as a 05 hotel, which is a Morse code interceptor with the rank of PFC, since I had college under my belt. I had a 4-year or 2 4-year degrees. I had a BA in history and a BS in law enforcement. And after joining the military, when people would find out that I had a BS in law enforcement, they're like, well, how come you didn't join the Army as a MP? I got a story about that one later on. We'll probably talk about that next week. My previous experience with a recruiter back when I was an 18, 19-year-old. We'll do that one next week if I remember. I don't watch these videos, and I don't write things down like I should. So I would be at PFC with the condition, if I kept my nose clean and everything else, I'd be a specialist 4 in 4 months. Yes, I was a spec 4. I wasn't just a straight specialist. I have lots of paperwork that says I was specialist 4. And I used to show that to the specialists as I got older, and they'd be like, oh, wow, you're old. So after signing the contract in August, same time I took these 3 tests, could have been the same day for all I know, I got all excited. Says, when can I go? He's like, go where? Then my recruiter, he's like, well, you can't go to basic training right away. You're delayed entry. I go, excuse me? He says, yeah, I got to get all the high school students taken care of first. You're not a priority. I'm like, well, I signed the paperwork. And of course, so have they. So it turns out the middle of October, I was finally told that, oh yeah, you're taking off to go to Fort Dix, New Jersey. What an experience. So the middle of October, on a Friday, I learned one thing that Friday: never report into a new unit on a Friday night, especially as late as I did, but we'll get to that in a bit. So I got down there along with all the other recruits, and we all raised our right hand. I, Chief Lane, do solemnly swear that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic, that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same, and that I will obey the orders of the President of the United States and the orders of the officers appointed over me according to regulations and the Uniform Code of Military Justice. So help me God. Yes, I swear, because I'm a religious person. If you're not religious, you can affirm. So we raised our, like I just did, and we all went to our respective branch of the services, and a bunch of us were in the Army there, and I got assigned 2 other individuals that I was going to be responsible for that day, since I was the highest ranking and also the oldest. I went to basic training with another male and a female, and the female was a wreck. She had just lost a child. I don't know if I can't remember if it was in an abortion or what. I just remember she just lost a child, and she was married, and she already had a kid or 2, but she decided to join too. But she was a wreck, and the other guy was smart as a whip, as I'll come to find out. So the 3 of us got our tickets, got told all the information that we'd be flying from Denver, Colorado to LaGuardia Air Force or airport. Whoosh. Airport in New York, and then we would go down to this one terminal, and there would be a bus to come along and pick us up with everybody else that got deposited at LaGuardia that day. Boy, I'm stumbling over words. So we had a long flight. Like I said, it was mid-afternoon. My significant other brought my 2 children to see me off, and this is back in the days when your families could actually go to the gate where you got on and off an airplane and bid you farewell and also greet you. Gosh, I miss those days. And so I flew. And being the middle of October, it was still rather warm, which was helpful. We sat together side by side. We got to know one another. And that's when I found out, like I said, this female was a wreck. And I wished her well, because I don't know if I'd ever see her again. And I didn't see her again. Once we got off the plane and into the bus and reported to Fort Dix, I never saw her again, so I don't even know what she did in her career or not. So we land at LaGuardia, and it's dark, and we're kind of hungry. So we go down, and this is before also all the fast food places were inside of airports. So there was no food. Everything was kind of expensive, and we really didn't have much money. Plus, we only had the clothes on our back because we were told not to hardly bring anything. I think we were told to bring 2 locks and 2 towels, 2 white towels with no monograms or anything on them. And of course, the clothes on your back. And a shaving kit, I think. I can't remember all what our list was. So we get to LaGuardia, we get down to this terminal, and here's all these other people. And like I said, it's dark, and we're all waiting on this bus. So I can't remember if it's a Greyhound bus or what, but it was a hot evening. We got on this bus late in the evening, and I just looked it up. It's only like 89 miles from LaGuardia to Fort Dix. Hour and a half, it says, hour and 40 minutes, it said, but that seemed like the longest bus ride of my life. It was a hot night, we had the windows down, and it didn't help. So we get to Fort Dix. Bus drops us off, and we were greeted, I think, by just a sergeant. And he brought us into a classroom. And he gave us a speech. If you don't have 2 locks tonight, you'll have to get 2 locks whenever you get a chance to purchase stuff and like that. You're supposed to have 2 towels and all this stuff on you. I mean, he went over the list of what you were supposed to bring and what not to bring. Because there was it's kind of a tented off area inside this classroom where you were supposed to deposit your liquor, your soft drinks, your food, your pornography, your guns, your knives, anything that you brought that was going to be prohibited for the next weeks while you went through basic training. So we were told to go through this thing one at a time, and when my turn came, I went in there, and I guess they don't empty it out very often because it was rather full of mostly magazines and some food items and maybe a bottle of soda pop, not that much. I unfortunately had, or fortunately I guess I should say, since I was still starving, we hadn't had anything to eat since lunchtime. I still had some chocolate chip cookies homemade that I was not going to put in there, so I already broke the rule at the very start of my military career. It's not like they were going to pat search us, at least I didn't think they were. So we finally get done with that, and then the sergeant, he was gone while we were doing our amnesty visit. So we're all sitting in there. We're all tired. It's getting like 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock at night. I mean, it's getting late. And we're just sitting there, and we're sitting there, and we're sitting there. And then finally he comes back in, and he has a few soldiers with him. And these guys look like they're tired. And they treat us like crap. They issue some kind of command. Lead us over to a barracks. They get us to a room, turn on the light, like 8 to 10 men per room. I mean, these bunk beds are all askew and everything else. They're like, find a bunk, jump to it, and then they turn the light out. Excuse me, I gotta scratch my nose. I'm itchy. Kiss a fool, as my grandmother would say. So I ate my chocolate chip cookies while everybody else, nodded off. Everybody else just went to sleep, just like snapping my fingers. They were all out. We got woken up a Saturday. Got ushered over to the breakfast line, in the chow hall, came back. Sergeant in charge of this receps area was kind of like, well, you guys don't have your uniforms, so I really can't do much with you. But however, there are some few minor details, so we started to do fall cleanup. So my first job as fall cleanup in the United States Army was to paint rocks white. Those nice decorative rock around their so-called shrubbery that they have on their walkways outside of the barracks building that we were staying in. That was Saturday. In my civilian attire too, no less. So I was very careful, took my time because I didn't want to get any paint on. Right then, the only clothes I actually had on my back. And I can't remember what we did on Sunday, but it was kind of like a day of rest. You could go to church if you wanted to. Just hung around your board. You didn't even have a book to read. They really didn't even have a TV room for us, so I don't know exactly what I did on Sunday. Well, of course, Monday was get your uniforms, get your boots, start to look like a soldier. And then they gave us these 2 brown towels. No, wait, we had to buy those. Never mind, we had to buy those. We got our Class A's measured for us. Wouldn't see them for like 4 weeks. Got our name, given our names, and got our name tapes and stuff like that. Started getting that stuff sewn on our uniforms. Well, they had these other soldiers in charge of us, so I asked the guy that was in charge of us because he was a corporal. Come to find out, he was a flocked corporal. Flock means that he has a rank that just to give him some authority, but he's not that rank. Turns out he was only an E2, and when I asked him if I could put on my PFC, he said no. I went ahead and did it anyway, and just to spite him, because I figured I should be in proper uniform, and proper uniform is having your rank on your uniform. My nose is still itching. Wow. Sorry. My dog's in front of me right now. Maybe she's causing enough dander. Quit wagging your tail there. Yes, I see you. Let me finish my story, and then we'll go outside, okay? So, like I said, that week we started our in-processing. I think we in-processed for like 2 or 3 days. They still had the guns to shoot all the shots into you, so people were passing out right and left. When it came my turn to have these guys on both sides of me, one guy shot before the other, so I tensed up on one side, and of course I was bleeding profusely down my side, and the guy made a comment, "Yeah, you tensed up." I said, "Yeah, because the other guy shot first." And getting all your records straight, we were going, and then you're signing all this other paperwork, your insurance paperwork, this paperwork. And it was really strange because there was no consistency of how you had to write the date, because the guy would sit there and tell me, okay, on this form you got to put year, month, day. On this form you got to put day, month, year. On this form you got to put month, day, year. And I looked at him, I said, you think the Army would have all these date time groups standardized? And he kind of says, yeah, it is kind of strange, so we got to be careful, because a lot of this stuff was handwritten too, or typewritten, or on the old typewriter. This is all pre-computer. This is way before computers came in. So we took care of all that paperwork. And then came the day that we all stood in formation. We're all everything's all done. Most of our briefs are done. And, we also had to do 14 push-ups. If you couldn't do 14 push-ups on Monday, you got put in the exercise company. And these guys ran everywhere, which was really strange, because they also wore the old banana suit, the old PT uniform that was the yellow thing. If anybody's ever seen the old Army, U.S. Army PT suit that was yellow, they called it the banana suit, and these guys got stuck wearing those, and they ran all over posts. And it was kind of strange that they're running because they failed push-ups. Huh. Well, didn't see the logic of that, but they ran everywhere. I did 14 push-ups. And so we were standing in formation, and they didn't call my name. And everybody got on a bus or something, I can't remember what it was, or marched over to a bus, and I was standing there, and the guy, and there was like about 2, 3, 4 of us that didn't get our names called, and they're like, well, you guys don't worry about it, day or two. He says, your clearance. I'm like, oh, okay. Yeah, since I was going to be on an 05 hotel, 05 hotel, see, I did it to myself again. Clearance. Yeah, top secret clearance, top secret and above. I mean, I had so many caveats to my top secret clearance, I don't even know what I can talk about sometimes. But fortunately, I only got held over one night, or one day. So I lost contact with the guy I actually flew on the plane with. I mean, we were in the same room, I think, but he got to go to a company a day before me. And he also, excuse me, and he also got stuck in a different platoon. I thought we were still in the same company, but he got stuck in first platoon, I think it was, and then next day I got in line and did my first major screw-up with the drill sergeant. I need to see your IDs and your ID tags or your dog tags. Man, I want them out and blah, blah, blah. As he goes down the line and you get on the bus. Well, I bought one of those wallets that had that good old plastic sleeve on it. So I stuck my ID card in that and had my wallet with my ID card sticking out. And he comes up and he just looks at me and he goes, what did I tell you? I'm like, you told me to get my ID card out and my ID tags. I heard drill sergeant, and I said, here's my dog tags, and I got them around my neck. I actually have my original set from Fort Dix, New Jersey. I can't show them because of my social security number. I think I just maybe shown part of it. Hope I didn't. And basically, so I take the ticket out of that. So I took it out of there, got on the bus. I got stuck in 4th platoon, and our company consisted of only 3 platoons, 1, 3rd, and 4th. We didn't have a second. Yeah, we didn't have a second platoon. We had 1, 3rd, and 4th. And that's the start of my basic training, and what a trip that was. I'll talk about that later because I got a lot of stories to tell, but we were also a rush company. Like I said, I got there in the middle of October, 2 or 3 days to process, so probably middle of the following week, maybe on a Wednesday, our company was fully operational with the strength that we were going to start with at least. And we were going to be done by the 2nd week of December and not coming back to finish. So therefore we gave up our Saturdays for training. So we were, 6 weeks, 8 weeks, 7 weeks, I can't remember. I'll have to look and double check that. So we were a short-term basic training company to get us out before the Christmas break, which we did. And like I said, I will start discussing basic training next week. And it was a trip. I was the oldest in the company. Yeah. Had people from all over. We had a Eskimo in the company. We had a guy who was a couple years younger than me from El Salvador. Canales was his name, and he didn't make it. He developed back troubles and had to get discharged, and he was so disappointed. He was funny. Got a story about him later on, and some yogurt. Drill sergeant really loved that day. And like I said, I'll start my basic training talk next week. I'll try to remember some of the good stories. I'll try to remember some of the bad stories. And Chief out. See you next week.